Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Rei-Lin and I'm back with more Dauntless today with another weapon tutorial. This time I was going to talk about the War Pike. This is the newest weapon in the game since it went into the closed beta phase, and so it is pretty unique and interesting. Has a lot of good things about it and a few kind of bad things about it. So let's just jump straight in, get going on the whole combo stuff. You'll see that there is not a lot as far as the combos go, but let's talk about it anyway. So piercing attacks. Your left clicks are repeated stationary attacks that can wound behemoth parts. And then you have the right click, which is a forward moving attack that rapidly builds your special meter. Then you got your Q. You convert your special meter into a powerful long range ammunition. I know it's cutting it off there. Hopefully they'll fix that soon. And then if you hold it down, you charge up and you release it to fire a missile. So, before we get into any of the left clicky stuff, take a look at the top left. That is your special bar. It doesn't really matter so much what the brackets are. They're just something cool. It doesn't really do you any good to separate it into brackets. As it fills up, it's just one continuous bar. And as soon as you stop attacking, it starts to immediately drain. So, while that bar is getting more and more full, you're doing more and more damage with all of your attacks. But the mechanic is you want to hit Q, preferably when the bar is all the way full for maximum damage. And you'll see the three little squares underneath that black bar up there. You will store a rocket, and you can hold up to 3. Now, when you store it, it takes all of your meter and stores it as that missile. So if you got a full meter, you store a missile. When you fire that missile, it's going to do a lot more damage than if you only had about half of your meter when you stored the missile. So there is that. Anytime that you have any special meter in your meter, if you get hit, it goes away. So your goal ultimately with the War Pike is to do enough attacks to fill the meter to maximum and continue to keep it at maximum while you don't get hit. So it's high damage, but it's high risk. As soon as you take any damage whatsoever, it's going to drain your entire meter and you'll have to refill it again. Now once you have stored your 3 missiles, there's no time limit on it. They're just stored and you can use them at your whim when you need to use it. The missiles are mainly used for booping monsters, the owls, Deadeye Quillshot. Anything that can be booped with the missiles. Pretty much consistently, but that's up to how well you aim, because you do have to aim it. This is not a fire and forget. This is a charge up, fire, aim, and so your mileage varies depending on your skill with the War Pike. So we'll talk about the left clicks. You get 5 of them in a row. The 5th one, you can hold it down. If you hold it down, you go into what I call the stabby, 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 stabby phase, and that's really, really cool and useful. Any of these stabs can be immediately rolled out of as long as you hit with the stab. And believe it or not, this stab actually has a pretty big range. I mean, you can see kind of from the side there just how far out those sparks go. It's not quite to the end of the sparks, but it's a little bit further away than the actual pike tip. So, that is the left clicks. You just left click 5 times and then hold it down on the 5th and you will tear shit up. Now, it says that it causes wound damage. What is wound damage? That's red damage to a part of a monster. When you do wound damage to a monster part, eventually it's going to crack that monster part, and you're going to see some smoke. It looks like smoke, like some blue smoke start to rise off of that part. That lets you know that it is now completely wounded, and any damage that that part takes will be increased. I believe it's 25% for War Pikes and 50% for all the other weapons. So the yellow damage that you do to a part will increase. And that's really important for breaking parts off. It's also very useful for doing much more damage to a behemoth. The War Pike is the only one that naturally can wound parts. So don't think that you're going to wander around wounding parts with an axe or a sword. You have to have a War Pike user in your group to go around and stab all the monster parts until they turn into smoking monster parts, and then you're going to do the maximum damage on that monster part. Now, your right click uses a lot of stamina, and it makes you do some funky Bruce Lee bow staff attacks. Now you can move around kind of as you're doing them. You can kind of head to the right, or you can go to the left. So you can do a little bit of dodge, evasion stuff going on. The problem with this attack, if you want to call it a problem, is that third hit. You got right click, right click. When you get to this, you are stuck doing that entire animation. You can't cancel it. You can't roll out of it. The only thing that takes you out of it is getting hit. So you have to be really, really sure that you're going to beat the crap out of that monster and he's going to stand there the entire animation, or you're going to get hit and take a lot of damage. So caution when using it. Now, one thing that's kind of nice about the War Pike is that you can transition back and forth between the left and the right clicks. If you get to the end of either string, so let's say I do 4 and then I do 2 rights and then I hold left. Now I've ended the string. Or you can do 2 rights, maybe 4 of these, and then end with your swirl. You can mix and match the lefts and the rights, and it will continue right where you left off from the last button. So keep that in mind. You can get some variety. Also, while you're stabbing, you can easily turn, and you got this little hop that you do if you're holding left or right in between like this. So you can see I'm just kind of holding A and D while I'm stabbing, and you kind of go. Now while you're doing your rapid stabs, you can also direct where they're going. You can turn. So you can turn just a little bit, but you are stationary. Keep in mind that getting to that 5th click takes a little bit of time. It seems like it's fast, and it is very quick, but when you've only got a couple of seconds to actually hit a monster, it'll just seem like it's extremely, extremely slow. So just keep that in mind. You need a little bit of time to set up your stabs. But everyone else, believe me, is going to love you. Now, you do have roll attacks with left and roll attack with right. You don't really have so much a jump. I mean, you got a little bit there. But keep in mind that you do lose a lot of stamina with your right clicks over your left. So, overall, it has a lot of range, it has some speed, and you can dodge roll out of pretty much every one of these left clicks. You can dodge roll out of the rights as well, but the animation cycles on right clicks are much, much longer and less forgiving. So keep that in mind if you're going to use the War Pike. Now, in order for me to show you the special bar and the missiles, I gotta go up here and say hello to my friend Chirag. I have a lot of fun with this monster. I think he's one of the easiest at the first couple of tiers, and we'll see how this goes. Just to get him in range here. There, you see the red damage? Now, there is one problem with the left clicks, and that is that if you don't hold it down in time on that 5th one, you will stop stabbing with only a couple of stabs. It kind of sucks, but that's how they do it. And obviously, if you don't really want to get hit too much, and if you ever catch on fire, by the way, for people who don't know, you can just roll, and it'll help put it out. So once you see right there his leg, I have now wounded it, and you can wound every part, even its head. Any part that's you do yellow damage to, just like that. See, is smoking now. Now you can come in here and just start whacking on this. Now, my bar is full. I'm going to hit Q. Well, unfortunately, he hit me with the fire first, so now I was going to hit Q. See what he wants to do. Alright, he's going to do that. You don't have to have a full bar at all, so you can keep that in mind. You don't need a full bar of energy here to store anything. But now that it's up there, now I have 1 missile. Now keep in mind also, hitting these wounded parts is going to make you do a lot more damage to those parts. So keep in mind, if you're trying to break parts, you're doing more yellow damage, you're still wounding the monster's health. Alright, so get some range here. Now I'm going to hold Q and you're going to see what happens. shoot a missile. And yes, he has to unfold sometimes after that attack. It's kind of funny. And when he goes into this attack, kind of hang out in between his legs if you're careful. I'm not being careful because I'm just trying to show you how to use the missile. Now basically what happens is when you're charging it like this, it's going to flash. You'll see a little flash right as it sucks in the energy. There's a flash. And if you launch it when that flash goes off and you hit a weakened monster part, like any of these that you see, it'll do a lot of damage. That's why the War Pike gets really, really good once you start wounding the parts. But it can be very hard to wound those parts and not get hit 100 times while you're swinging with reckless abandon. So like I said, if you get hit, you lose the entire meter. But as you can see, you can also do a lot of damage with your missile attacks. Now this can also boop the monster, so you can keep that in mind as well. If you hit him in the head, you do quite a bit of damage. And you can stun the monsters with it. As you can see, I actually ended up killing him just from the basic damage that I was doing. So, as you can see, it's fairly simple to use. It gives you a lot of advantages. You have a little bit of range. You can sort of stay out of the range of some monster attacks. And then when the monster is very vulnerable, you can rush in and use your right clicks to rapidly do a lot of damage to wounded parts and build your special meter, and you can build your lantern quite quickly. So anyway, I faded out of that fight since I beat the crap out of Charog, and I didn't really mean to kill him, but I didn't want to end it back in town explaining anything about the War Pike on the closing thoughts here. So the War Pike is very good at wounding the parts, and that helps your entire group because wounded parts take more yellow damage. And so really having a War Pike with you increases your overall damage, and you kill the monster a lot quicker. But it also means that you're doing a lot more damage, and you may not break the parts off before you end up killing the actual monster. It does fairly good damage with the left clicks. The overall most damage you're going to get out of this thing is between the missile that you can shoot and the right click spam. If you get wide open against a bunch of monster parts like legs and stuff, and you stun the monster, the War Pike does obscene amounts of damage with the right click spam. You just go, go, go the whole time, and believe me, it hurts the monster quite a bit. For booping monsters, really right now, unless you're using weighted chain blades, get lucky with a sword fireball or your axe with your special up. The missiles are probably the easiest thing to boop a monster with right now. Overall, I really do like the War Pike. It can get you out of some sticky situations and put you into them just the same. Your dodge roll is pretty much the same as all the other weapons minus the chain blades. And it's just overall a really good addition to all the other melee weapons. You get a little bit of ranged with the missile. You get a little bit more melee range than most other weapons because it is a pike and you do have some extra range on the left clicks. And it has a little bit of risk and reward because you want to keep your special meter as full as possible while you're spamming right click to do a lot of burst damage, and use the left click to get you some sustained and keep you out of trouble since you can dodge roll out of all the hits. So I think it's pretty good. I think it's on par, probably more useful than even the sword, not quite as useful as the axe and the hammer, but that's just from a damaging standpoint. I think the pike can do a little bit more damage than a sword, but a sword is also a much safer bet in certain aspects than the War Pike. Like I said, the right click spam, a lot of people fall for it and they get destroyed because they're just abusing it too much. And that's pretty much all the War Pike has going for it. You've seen the combos and I've explained the attacks and shown you the missiles. So you have to decide if this is a weapon for you. It's sort of a little more risky than a sword, not quite as risky as the hammer or the axe. And obviously much more damage and not quite as fast as the chain blades. Anyway, that's it for this video and this tutorial. If I've left something out, if I made a mistake, or you have any other comments, please leave them down below. I love to read them and love to answer questions. Catch me on my live stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings after 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm playing Dauntless a lot right now, helping people get into the game, answer as many questions as I can, or showing them if they have something that I should show instead of talk about. So check me out there if you're interested in getting more interested into Dauntless, and I'll help you out as best I can. And that's going to do it. If you like the video, if I helped you out, please press the like button down below. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, you can click down at the bottom of your screen here in just a few seconds. That'll get you all the latest updates every time I upload something new to my YouTube. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and I will talk to you all next time.